Welcome to this episode of the Suicide Prevention Show, where we believe in you and we want you to do that too. And to help us believe in ourselves just a little bit more is one of my favorite people. This is Bruce Barnes. And we're going to continue the conversation about the conversation that really matters, the one that you have with yourself. So here we go. The ride gets more interesting from here. And I'm going to invite Bruce to come on in. And let's see, here we go. There you are, a little bit of magic.
Yeah. Hello, Jackie.
Hello, Bruce. All right. So the elephant in the room is that something shifted. There you go. All right, now I
Yeah,
can see you. I
my
lost.
camera does weird things once in a while.
I understand that. Oh my goodness, Bruce. You have been part of the journey to this particular season of the show in a way that you've seen behind the scenes in the way many people don't. All of the technical glitches that we started with 2 weeks ago. And it was like, we're going to have all of this stress stuff out of the way before the actual show. We are so, what's the right word? We are so inoculated against having any tech issues because of all the ones we had leading up to it. So that's my reframe of the day. Okay.
Okay.
Bruce, you are doing something absolutely amazing in the field of human potential. How did you end up in potentiality?
Oh boy, we only have 52 minutes, right? No.
Yeah. So you're going to give the short version of this because we're going to get into self-talk. Yeah.
Yeah. So, a little bit about my story on getting here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I started having. Well, first off, I really need to compliment you on how you arranged having Jana and Lee and I kind of grouped together. We all kind of, you know, interlace our messages here. So this is great. But I started having serious health challenges when I was a teenager. It really started when I was in the 10th grade. I was, well, just, it was November of the 10th grade, just really a few days shortly after turning 16 and a few days after taking my driver's license test.
Ooh.
And I wound up getting very sick. I mean, I was throwing up blood, passing blood, rushed to the hospital, was in such bad shape that they actually gave me last rites when I arrived at the hospital.
Whoa.
And that's a very humbling experience. And so anyway, I recovered from that, and ended up being in and out of the hospital half the sophomore year of high school, and really had the health challenges for, even another 6 months or so. And I finally got to the point where I was mentally ready to take back control of my life and have major surgery where they would remove the diseased part of my intestine. At the time, we thought it was ulcerative colitis. And so June 1976 is when I had the surgery. The day after surgery, they weighed me, and I weighed 65 pounds. I was literally skin and bones. But a whole new chapter. Got my health back for many years, and but eventually started having some more flare-ups and that, and was re-diagnosed as having Crohn's disease, which that was devastating to me, because as far as they say, well, there's no cure for that. Well, I had many surgeries and had a hole in my intestine in 85 is when they realized that it was Crohn's disease. So 2 years later, I have another hole in my intestine. But okay, well, another, surgery, a week or so in the hospital, a week or so recovering. And
Mm-hmm.
no, it turned out to be one complication after another in 87. And I wound up being in the hospital for 21 days shy of a year. I almost died.
Whoa. Hold it.
Yeah.
I can do math. I'm going to pause this just a second. 21 days shy of a year doesn't sound like much, but 21 days shy of a year is 334 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's and I wound up just that one hospital stay almost dying 2 or 3 times that I remember, and being in a coma for about a week. And that particular stay, I didn't, we knew something was attacking my liver. And they just figured, with all the surgeries that I had had during that stay, that, oh, you must have gotten some bad blood and you have hepatitis. And I'm like, oh, joy. But just before what ultimately was me going into a coma, there was a special on the hospital TV channel about the power of visualization, the power of your mind. It was Dr. Bernie Siegel. He wrote the book, Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And he was talking about essentially, different things in the book. And he was an oncologist, and he would teach his patients how to visualize. And he would tell them, okay, well, like one patient, I want you to visualize your body killing off the cancer cells.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor said, or the patient said, well, I can't do that. And he said, well, why can't you do that? He said, well, I'm a Puritan. I can't kill anything. It's like, okay, how about you picture your body gathering up the cancer cells in a basket and throwing them out of your bodies? Oh, I can do that. Well, all of the patients that he worked with on visualizing got better than any other oncologist patients did.
Mm.
So I'm saying, okay, I know what's going on is something's going on that's attacking my liver. So I'm going to start visualizing my body filtering my liver. Well, that's pretty much when I started my first phase of me going into a coma. Was I was paralyzed. I could not move.
Wow.
I could still talk, but then about a day later or so, I could not talk. So now I can't move and I can't talk. So then another day or so later, I can't open my eyes. Yet I'm fully conscious. I am aware and hear everything that's going on around me. And it's like, okay, God, either take me or, heal me. Don't leave me as a vegetable here. And I'm continuing to visualize my body filtering the liver and that. So that's probably about the time I went into a coma. And at any rate, I wake up, and it's what had taken several days for me to get to that point of being, not able to move, talk, or open my eyes. Within a day, I woke up and was able to move, talk, and whatnot. And one of my nurses came in, like the night shift, I think it was. And I'd been in the hospital for many months at that point, so I got to know the nurses really well. And so she came in, and she was kind of surprised to see me awake, and says, well, gee, you were in a coma for almost a week. And I'm like, I was? Okay. And I said, well, we didn't pull you out of it. So are you doing something? And it's like, well, I'm visualizing. And it's like, well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. So ultimately,
Wow.
we figured out what was going on, and I was able to get the final surgery in that. But what that is what really was kind of my tipping point of realizing just how powerful the mind is.
Mm.
I mean, not to discount prayer as well, but up to that point, all through my different health challenges, I was pretty positive. But in fact, when in that particular hospital stay, the first surgery that we were going to do was on Friday, the 13th of February. Well, the Crohn's was so active when they removed the bad part, when they sewed the intestine back together, another hole formed. Says, okay, well, let's try it again next month. So March, Friday the 13th, we tried it again, same problem. So it's like, are you guys purposely picking Friday the 13th? Come on, So after that second surgery, it had another hole form. The hospital chaplain had gotten to know me and that. So she came in to my room and closed the door and grabbed a pillow. It's like, you must be really upset and discouraged about this. It's like, well, yeah, I'm kind of bummed that it didn't work. And it's like, well, and she starts raising her voice. It's like, well, here, take this pillow, hit me with it, just shout, yell. And it's like, and I'm sitting up in bed and I'm kind of sinking back and it's like, I'm okay. And it's like, really? It's like, well, you're kind of freaking me out. But I mean, it's like, really, you're okay? So, well, my body needs positive energy to heal. So I'm not going to focus on the negative. And that, so at any rate, that whole stay and that wound up, really kind of tipping the scales to, I need to pay close attention to what's going on with the mind and mindset. And that's what really got me focused on it.
Okay, so we're going to call this an intervention. We've been having these conversations with people over the course of time. And what I've come to know is that sometimes there's this moment of enter the mentor. And it's in your case, it's really a bit part. I mean, there was one conversation on a television show that put you into a coma, and you came out being able to move. So enter the mentor. So I gather you went and did you actually go and find this book by Dr. Bernie Siegel?
Well, actually, my dad's brother had given it to my folks a
Ah,
year or so later or earlier, but I had never read it.
oh, how funny.
But it's interesting. Shortly after I had gotten out of the hospital, I think it was the following year, Dr. Bernie Siegel was on a local TV show here near Seattle. And so I went, or no, I should say he was on the show and I called in.
Yeah.
So he
Okay.
just shared that story about the visualization and that. And so they actually put me on the air with, but so I did share that with him and that, but just to share a couple other stories that he said, just how powerful the mind was that they talked about in that video was they, there was a patient that was in the hospital for just an overnight, just a minor thing. So they're just there overnight. Well, the doctor comes in, and this is back when the charts were in the room with the patient and that
Oh,
weren't
yeah, I
digital.
remember those days.
Yeah. So the doctor comes in and he's in a bad mood for whatever reason. And he picks up the chart like, I see by your chart here, you're not going to be with us much longer, meaning he's going to be in over, just go home tomorrow morning. Well, the patient took it as being something drastically serious and he died that night. And there was no medical reason for him to have died.
Oh my
And
God.
then there was another, conversely, there was another patient. She was right outside the nurse's station. And the nurse saw the doctor, goes into the room, and then after a while comes back out. So she goes into the room, and this woman patient is like in really good spirits, like, oh, gee, the doctor must have had some really good news for you. She says, yeah, he told me my heart is as healthy as a horse. Well, and she got well and healed and was released pretty quickly. Well, what the doctor actually told her was you have gallop rhythm of the heart, which is a serious condition, but she took it as my heart is as healthy as a horse, and she got better. So the power of the mind works both ways.
Yeah, that's very, very true. The power of the mind works both ways, and we are conditioned and hardwired with a natural negative bias. The
Yep.
hardwiring is our evolutionary system, and then the conditioning is our culture. So, with both of those focused on the negative, having the tools and the techniques to be able to shift that into the positive is a necessary skill, especially in this day and age. So, Bruce, walk us through the steps that actually work to shift the brain into this positive state of mind.
Well, it's interesting that the mind is the most powerful computer ever created. I mean, this is just a few little things. It does 10 quadrillion computations per second. It automatically controls all the body functions. We don't have to say, okay, I got to make sure my heart's beating and I'm breathing, and it's automatically taking care of all that. There's 6 trillion commands every second going to 60 trillion cells in our body.
Wow.
I mean, that's amazing. But there's one thing that the brain cannot do. Any idea what it is?
No. What is it?
It cannot decipher the difference between your thought and reality. So that's where there's so many different things, that examples in that, where like a hypnotist hypnotized people on stage, saying that his tip of his finger was red hot, and he touched them on their skin, and where he touched them, they actually got a burn blister. So the brain is thinking that's real. Well, the subconscious is really controlling our thoughts, our life. And our conscious mind is only controlling things about 2 to 4% of the time. So that's amazing. And so, and pretty much everything around us is really shaping our subconscious mind. Everything that we read, hear, and feel.
Well, that was my understanding, is that the subconscious mind has really no filter. It allows everything in.
Yep.
But the communication between the subconscious and the conscious, now that's got some filters.
Yeah. And it's one of the things that, like, for me, is I, don't watch the news very much, and just try to consciously limit how much negativity is actually coming in. Well, the different, it's just funny. This is, I think Lee mentioned ants, automatic negative thoughts.
Oh, is that what you, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I loved it when she picked up on, and when she said that, I was like, yes, this is cool. This is going to tie right in. So we have an average of 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Most of those are the same thoughts as we had yesterday, and most of those are negative. Those are the automatic negative thoughts. And so it's no wonder why it's a challenge trying to stay positive. And so you have, the different concerns about, you're worried about something or afraid of something. This is, well, that just keeps building on these negative thoughts. And when you have negative thoughts, that actually is stimulating or releasing the cortisol in our bodies, which is the stress hormone. So we wind up with this negative thinking, we're causing our body to physically be stressed out. And when we're stressed out, we become more negative. So it's a vicious little loop here going on.
Sounds like a vicious little loop.
Yeah. And the challenge is that there's several different, I refer to them as different types of ants.
Okay. So we've got automatic negative thoughts, and now we have the different colonies of ants.
Yep.
All right. Yep. I'm with you so far.
Okay. So now one type is uses words such as always, never, every time, or everyone.
Okay. We're going to call that an absolute ant.
Yeah. Yeah. And another one focuses on the negative side of things. For example, let's say he says, I know I just lost 10 pounds, but I was really wanting to lose 15. Well, instead of focusing on the fact that they lost 10 pounds, they're focusing on that they didn't lose the 15 pounds.
I got a name for that one too. I'm calling him discount, because he discounts anything positive.
And another type is kind of a guilt trip. where you're kicking yourself. It says, I should have, must, or ought to, have to. And then another one is basically labeling yourself as lazy, a failure, a loser, that type of thing.
Got it. Okay.
Then the final one is a really nasty one, and that's where it predicts the future, or predicts a negative outcome. That it's like, oh, since I know I'm going to fail at this interview, or I'm going to fail this test, or gee, that person must not like me because they didn't say hi to me.
Ah, there we go. That's quite a family of ants.
Yep.
And you're right. Those are some nasty ones in there.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the things that, and people don't realize it, but by pointing this out, now you're going to be more aware of these ants.
Oh, we're going to
So
have to give them colors or something. Do you have a color code for these things?
no, I don't.
Oh, there we go. We might have to do that on the show. All right. So here's my 5 ants that I wrote down. If somebody caught different names, we've got absolute ant, discount ant, should ant, judge ant, and project ant, where you're projecting the negative, into the future.
Yep.
All right. So we'll come up with colors with that as we go along, most likely. We'll see what people come up with. In the meantime, keep going, Bruce, because this is fun. I
Yeah.
had never thought of this way.
Well, one of the things that now that people are going to be more aware of these ants. So is when you notice that thought coming in, it's like, oh, say ant, cancel that, and then reframe it as some sort of a positive statement and focus on the positive. So that's one way, as I refer to as, that's one way to stomp out the ants, which
Oh, cool.
it isn't something that you can do immediately, because most people have a lot of ants running around in their mind. So, but it does work, but it just takes a little bit of time. And it's amazing how, if just by one of the little exercises I like to have people do is just take a little inventory of how you mental, emotionally, physically feel right now, and put a rating of 1 to 10 on each of those 3 areas, like 1 being I couldn't feel any worse, or 10 up to 10 where I feel amazing. And, put today's date on that. Then over the next few weeks and stuff, as you start stomping out these ants, after you've done that for a few weeks, take another inventory and rate yourself in those areas. It's surprising how much you will improve, as well as obviously, cut back on how much of the negative news and negative people that you're hanging around. Yes.
All right. So if you want to cancel ants,
Yep.
you have to stop inviting them.
Yep. Stop feeding them.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like paying attention to where all the negativity is in your world, whether it's with your friends and family, or whether it's with the news and media. Wherever you notice that there's an ant colony, avoid exposure.
Mm-hmm.
Did I get it?
Yeah, at least limit it as much as you can, because I mean, obviously, if you've got a lot of negative family, you can't always avoid them, but you can limit the interaction.
Well, yeah, I loved what you said about, I wrote it down as date your rate, where you actually take that inventory of those 3 areas of your life, give yourself a number of 1 to 10, write it down and date it, and then check back with the intention of spending some time canceling out some ants or stomping out some ants. So I like the idea of this. This is pretty cool because it gives a way to visualize the thinking, and thinking can be pretty slippery to get a handle on.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that the self-talk isn't, just about the thinking. It's what you're doing, as well as, listening to. I mean, this is even like seemingly harmless video games that really got a lot of graphic negativity in there, as well as some of the music too can be feeding your negative thoughts. There's when you're focusing on the negative thoughts, it leads to decreased motivation and a greater feeling of helplessness. Well, this also then releases more of that cortisol.
And when you've got a lot of cortisol in your bloodstream, the words that you use to describe your world can be very limiting.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, is that I think it was, Lee was saying, this is, we have a lot more positive events, but we keep focusing on the negative.
Yeah, the natural negative bias of the
Yeah.
brain. So
So
finding more ways to have this conversation. All right, what is a self-talk mantra or something that we can give um, as a let's just get started with some tangible things?
well, everybody's at some point tried affirmations, like, I'm
Well,
successful at this, I'm good at this, and your conscious mind kicks in. It's like, no, you're not. Who are you kidding? So you get all these.
you can get a lot of ants stirred up with
Yeah.
a positive affirmation. I love that. It is like stirring an ant's nest sometimes.
So it's like, here are a few examples and stuff. Says, wow, I'm an idiot. I really screwed up on that presentation. I may as well start looking for a new job now. Well, you reframe that to do, I know I can do better next time. I'll spend more time preparing and practicing. I could take a public speaking class, which would help my career overall. Or another example is I can't do that in such a short time frame. I'm doomed for failure. Alternative, it seems like a lot to do, but I'll break it into small steps. I might be able to get others to help me. Looking at that, and I love this other one. It's like, there's no way I can change my mindset. I can't change my thinking to be more positive.
Oh, now that's a pretty sneaky ant. That
Yeah,
might want to be in a colony all of his own.
yeah.
Um,
I now have an increased awareness of my thoughts, so making it the more positive won't be that hard, and it can help all areas of my life, and I'm at least going to try.
there we go. That
Some of the different types of affirmation statements are, the most powerful one is I am. I am good at this. I am successful and stuff. And that's the most powerful one. The other one is a third party validation, where it's say, you are good at this. Another one is a statement of fact, is it is really, it is easy for me to do this. And then another one is where it focuses on feelings. I feel confident. So taking just some examples of each of those is, I am talented. You are talented. It is easy for me to do this, and I feel confident. So those are the kind of the key ways of doing the affirmation statements. But there's another one that I like to use. I call it an affirmation statement. It's where you take your affirmation statement and you phrase it in the form of an empowering question. Like, how did I get so good at this?
Oh, what a great idea.
When did I start making all this money? Because when the mind encounters a question, the filter doesn't kick in. It says, yeah, when did that happen? And it starts to seek out evidence to prove that statement is true. So that's one way of kind of hacking the mind filter there, is you throw it put it in the form of a question.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so when did I start making all this money? That's a great one, because the limiting beliefs around money are just destroying people's peace of minds.
Well, and it's the same thing. It says, well, when did I start, when did my health start improving? And when did my mindset get so positive?
Hmm. Yeah, you could do it with anything. Um, I love that because it is such a simple, simple thing to do. Now, you said something a minute ago, and there was some pushback, and I know there's pushback on this, but then it showed up in the chat, and it was on including that three-letter word try.
Yep.
And I have a thought about it, but I really want to hear what you have about that little word because it has gotten a bad rap in a lot of areas.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I mean, but I mean, it's like where I said this is, well, I'm at least going to give this a try type of thing. Well,
Hmm.
those that's true. This is when you it's like try to sit down. It's like it's like the Yoda thing, either do or do not. There is no try.
Hmm.
So, but so you want to avoid using it as much as possible, obviously. But
I think that there's a moment where it just absolutely fit into your story.
yeah,
That when somebody's dealing with that ant, that was, I can't do this.
mhm,
You sort of have to meet your brain wherever your brain
yeah,
is what I was thinking. And the cancel for the I can't do this, that absolute, I could be willing to try.
yeah. And see, and that's exactly. It says it's baby steps. You don't have to try and figure it all out now. It just the you know
Yeah. I think that that's the place where using the word try is simply by getting some leverage on a brain that's used to absolutes.
mhm,
Because if I said I can do this, that absolute ant would shut me down.
yeah,
There'd be ants crawling all over that statement if I've never done it before.
yeah.
But if I said I was willing to try,
See, and that's another
willing to
that's
make
a
an
great way.
attempt.
That's a great one right there. I am willing to do this for a while. You can eliminate try and say do.
Mhm.
It's like I'm willing to do
Oh,
this.
there we go. There we go. I'm actually willing to succeed at this. This is a really good conversation. So let's succeed at this conversation a little more. Some success talk when it comes to self-talk. Lately, I've been studying more and realizing that success is not always the goal for people. For some people, it's the emotion of satisfaction
Mm,
or it's the emotion of peacefulness. And recognizing that one size does not fit all. That's where self talk, I think, really can get culturally indoctrinated in ways that don't serve.
yeah,
Hey, that was a pretty polite way of
yeah.
saying what I was thinking. I was struggling to stay polite here with that. So the cultural and not get yeah whatever to where it doesn't serve anymore. What are some other strategies, Bruce, that we can use to keep ourselves relatively ant free? What's another one?
Well, it's really I don't know. A lot of people have heard this, like you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Hmm.
So take a look at that. I mean, because it's not only like even like income your income level is probably going to be about the average of the 5 people you hang around with. Well, it's the same with your mindset. It's going to be, if you're hanging around with a lot of negative people, or it's going to be negative. So you need to consciously, you know like we said earlier and stuff, make that effort to limit your exposure to the negativity. Now, when I was first getting sick, I mean, just prior to the surgery, I hit a really low point, and there was a brief period of time where I thought of killing myself, because it was like, I can't handle this anymore. But I didn't hang on to it, because just with my faith, it's like, I can't do this, and so I turned everything over to God. It's okay, God, help me out here. And it was like, right after that, I wound up in the hospital again. And they said, okay, well, we can keep, having you come in to the hospital and build you back up, or we can do surgery. And I'm thinking, okay, let's do the surgery. And so the different, I guess, being open to different signs too, is what, when you're asking for that help and that guidance, because I firmly believe that that angels are guiding us, and however you want to take that, whether it's God, universe, and whatnot. But I mean, it's, there are signs and guideposts that we're presented with that we don't necessarily pay attention to.
Oh, well, glad you were paying attention when Bernie Siegel showed up on your TV screen.
But yeah, so but one of the things that it seems like a good place here is, have you heard of the story of the two wolves? I'd like to share that just for the listeners here and stuff. This is, an old Cherokee Indian is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside of me, he said. It's a terrible fight. It is between two wolves. One evil, he is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. He continued, the other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside of you and inside of every other person too. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? The old Cherokee simply replied, the one you feed. So which wolf are you feeding? So I personally, I'm feeding the good wolf, and the happens to be, ties into my gift for people. It's a very powerful positive mindset tool called Positive Prime, and I describe it like it's like a digital vision board on steroids.
Whoa. Okay,
It,
that's a pretty powerful description. A digital vision board on steroids.
yep, yeah. Each, what we
Okay.
call a session, consists of 1,000 positive images with 200 positive affirmation statements. And each of the sessions has a theme. And I've got 2 sessions in the library. We've got over 100 of them in there. And one of them is called Actualize Your Full Potential, which is geared towards, success mindset. And that, and we've got another one called Unlimited Potential, and that's geared towards students to give them a little more encouragement and support, as they're going through school. So,
Cool.
yeah, so I mean, it's a really unique tool, resource, that it blends positive psychology with neuroscience. And they've done some tests and have proven that just watching 3 minutes of one of our sessions positively impacts the body and brain chemistry, and it lasts 6 to 8 hours for just 3 minutes of watching.
Okay, so now this is because you know me, I geek out on the science. So this absolute measurement that was going on. All right, so people came in, they got their blood work done, they
Well, they
watched.
hook up all the sensors and everything,
Oh,
and
yeah, I'm thinking Ghostbusters here. Okay, so they wired them up, and then they did the visualization with your steroid digital vision board on steroids. Wow, that's a mouthful. And then they started tracking what was going on with them for 6 hours.
yeah, they took before reading and after reading, and then every hour or so they have them come back in and do another reading, and that, and it's really amazing. It says that just in the way it's designed, you can control the speed. So on the fastest, on the slowest speed, watching 1,000 slides, it takes about an hour as they just come up. And
Mhm.
on the fastest speed, it's about 3 minutes.
Ah.
So obviously the faster the speed, the less likely your filter is going to kick in on the statements.
Oh, now isn't that interesting? Because my immediate thought would be that slower was better.
And
And I'm like, darn, I'm going to be shortchanged because I'm
well,
like, give me the 3 minute version because that's all I'm going to sit still for.
yeah,
Yeah.
at the fastest speed, a lot of the statements, you're not going to read every word in the statement, but your brain picks up on the key words. And it's really surprising how much of it actually is, taken in. And the different, the way we recommend is like, as you're starting out, you do a slower speed, and then gradually work up. And then after you've been doing it for a while, kind of change the speed while you're watching it.
Ooh.
But what the other cool technology built into this is that you could watch the same session over and over again, and every time you watch it, it will be in a different sequence. It shuffles everything in a different sequence, so your brain is not anticipating what the next slide is going to be, so it
Oh, I
keeps it.
love this.
Yeah, so it's a very powerful tool. But the other thing that makes it exponentially more powerful is when you personalize it,
Mm.
when you upload your own images and statements that mean something to you. And one of the key things that has been discovered is you need to have images of you in there. And ideally, like if you've got a goal to go someplace or do something, Photoshop yourself in that location. Because like I said earlier, the brain can't tell the difference between a thought and reality. So it sees a picture of you already on, say, on stage at
Mm-hmm.
TEDx or wherever, it's like it takes that as already happened.
Ooh, good point. I could use that for my upcoming TEDx talk. Got to get myself a picture of the letters for that stage. All right. So this is a great thing for my techie to tackle. Um, yeah. So thank God for Katie, let me tell you. So, Bruce, among all the things we have that we can be grateful for, one of them is that we live in a day and age where this technology is available and that it's readily available. And I so appreciate you being willing to share that with our tribe because I can see where this would have a massive difference. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Does culture matter? Because we are now working with youth groups around the world. And
Mhm.
when it comes to these positive images, are positive images universal or are they culturally based?
No, they're universal.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. So then there's one of the images that are used are carefully curated. There has to be, like, anybody that's smiling, it has to be an authentic Deshane smile.
Wait,
And
an authentic what smile?
Deshane,
Don't know what that means.
it's like when you're looking at someone that's smiling, you can tell whether or not it's a fake smile or not. Because if it's an authentic smile, they got the little crinkles in the side of the eye, and it's
Mhm.
just a different look. So anything that's got an image of someone smiling, it has to be that authentic smile, and there has to be a certain percentage of green canopy, greenery in there. And
Oh,
it's all part of this positive psychology and neuroscience. It's just fascinating how everything interrelates, but it's how it gets into the brain faster.
that's really fascinating for me. Okay. So they've hacked the filter. The reticular activating
Mhm.
system is the name that I know. It's
Yep.
RAS. Um, and so they've hacked the filter, and it's a non-culturally based hack. I'm
Yes.
really impressed.
Yeah. Happiness is universal.
Oh, isn't that a great thing?
Yeah. That's just, and that's actually, I mean, you, you don't have, anything specific to a culture that's in there. There's in fact, a lot of the sessions have a mix of multiple cultures and
Yeah.
different people from different countries and that. So, I mean, yeah, it's great.
That's really, really interesting. Okay, so I know some people that they're gonna be really bummed they weren't on this session. Ha 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 ha. So the power of this is just wonderful, Bruce, because anything that gets around that filter in the brain, I'm all in favor of. I mean, you know
Yeah.
me, I get around it using the metaphor of elephants and allowing people to actually create their own elephant that represents whatever they're dealing with. And just like your ants, I mean, my first thing was, I'm on this. We're going to color code these puppies, because I want to be able to visualize, what this looks like. Um, so this element of fun and the fact that this is all done for you, and then you can personalize it, and it's a gift to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's with, we talked about the automatic negative ants.
Mm-hmm.
This positive prime mindset tool promotes automatic positive thoughts.
Apps.
Yeah.
Like aptitudes
Yeah.
or apartments.
Yeah.
And we'll go with aptitudes. Okay, so now we've got apps that we can, I see these as like the difference between the ants at a picnic and robo ants. So
Okay.
the apps are these robotic ants, and if they move in, the others have to move out. They don't have to have a battle. It's just
Yeah.
that they can't, if they move in, the others have to move out by
Yeah.
definition. I mean, isn't this how we take over a culture, right?
Yeah. Well,
So what
yep.
a great idea.
Yeah. One of the things that years ago somebody used this analogy that it's so stuck with me. It says you take a pit, like a pitcher, empty pitcher of water and stuff. You have
Uh-huh.
a pitcher, and you pour a cup of coffee in there. Okay, the coffee representing your negative thoughts, the dark color. Okay, now you
Ah,
start pouring pure water into it. Okay, it doesn't eliminate the coffee, but it thins
dilute.
it out.
Yeah.
So, and that's pretty much what you're
Oh,
doing.
I like that. That's so much gentler than mine.
Because
I was making the ants move out. Okay, but no, we'll just dilute them.
yeah,
Okay,
because
so they're no longer the majority.
yep. I mean, he says that is what it really boils down to is diluting what you have in the mind now, and that. But what there's a um, with the positive prime, I'm a certified professional with that, and part of our training, there's one thing that um, little visual that we use. It's like everybody's seen this image of an iceberg floating in the water, where what's above the water is your conscious mind,
Yeah.
and then the bigger part of the iceberg underwater is your subconscious mind.
I've seen
Okay.
that picture is used to describe so many
Oh
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the other part of this is if anybody that's watched or familiar with the movie The Secret, putting the intentions out there,
Mhm.
the we refer to the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the other than conscious mind.
Ooh, the other than conscious, THAN.
The other than conscious mind.
Yeah.
So that is the water that the iceberg is floating in.
Ooh.
So you're putting you're watching these positive prime sessions, and whatever your goal is, and that you know it's putting the energy out there. It's putting it out, your requests out there. Well, it's flowing through the water to the other icebergs. All of us are the icebergs floating in the ocean. So this
Ah,
is how things are manifesting. The subconscious puts things into motion without us realizing it.
got it. And so this is about the other than conscious mind. is, let's see, how many different words can we come up with this? The field of intention. I think that was Wayne
Yeah.
Dyer's analogy for it. The oh boy, the power of now. Yeah, there are a lot of different people who have these
Yeah.
concepts that are trying to help us understand that we communicate on this really sub lower level all the time, and that
Yeah.
what we intend, what we desire, what we allow ourselves to even accept to believe that we could possibly have matter.
Oh yeah. We're energetic beings that we have our aura field around us.
Mm-hmm.
And what they found is the heart field is even bigger than the aura field.
Ooh, I like this.
So when I think, I don't know, I've experienced this several times where I walk into a room and I feel this like negative or positive energy in there. And that's that field, the other than conscious mind field.
Getting messages. Getting messages. Oh, all right. I like that. That's brilliantly explained, Bruce. So thank you very much. How did, I mean, I know we're going to be running out of time, but the
Yep.
short story of how you got to be a certified, and I don't want to butcher it. So how did you got to be certified? I know I'm certifiable, but how did you get to be positive prime certified?
Let's just this certification program. This is anybody that has, like, I've got sessions in the library that are
So,
available, and we go through the certification program.
all right. So I have to ask, how old were you when you came across positive prime? You know, how long is it? I'm going to ask it the other way around. Let me be less personal. How long has this been around? Because I had not heard of it.
Well, it's been around for there was a prior version of it, and
Hmm.
that, but it's been around for about 10 years total,
Okay.
and it's been in the U.S. for um, probably about 5-6 years.
Oh, now that's really interesting because it's only been within, like, I think it was 2017 was it really only that recently?
Because I actually came across it in 2000, like I think it was like October of 2016.
Okay, because this is when Harvard was starting to do their studies and where they blew the concept of the fixed mind, the fixed brain out of the water. And we got into all of the conversations around neuroplasticity.
Mhm.
And that was my first
Yeah.
exposure to the idea of the brain can't tell the difference between what it physically experiences and what it imagines. Yeah. So that was, somebody mentioned something about pianos, and I'm like, that was the study that I had read about. And so this is really interesting that this is coming about in our day and in our age.
Yeah.
And that this is, you've made it so accessible to people. Bruce, this
Well,
is,
that's one of the things I love. I incorporate this into my coaching program, and that because it's everybody needs to be focusing on the positive, and it's everybody needs a little help, especially.
everybody needs, we could all use a little more positive power in our lives. And so that's what this show is about. That's what you are all about. And I am super grateful that you made the time and brought your very special gifts and your stories into our world. Bruce, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So we went from ants to apps, and from coffee to, I started to say to cognac, but we went from coffee to icebergs. You know, those are about the two extremes that we could get to. So thank you all for being on this journey with us. We're here to help you actualize your full potential, make it a great day, remembering that the choice is yours. And we will be back. So stay right where you are. The ride gets more interesting from here.